Welcome to Trailblazers and Titans with your host, Dr. Keith Haney. Trailblazers and Titans is your go-to podcast for insights, inspiration, and actionable advice from the world's most successful entrepreneurs and leaders. Each episode features in-depth interviews with industry pioneers, innovative thinkers, and business moguls who share their journeys, challenges, and strategies for success. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, a seasoned leader, or someone looking to make a significant impact, this podcast provides the tools and motivation to blaze your trail and become a titan in your field. Tune in to learn, grow, and transform your vision into reality.
Welcome back to Trailblazers and Titans, the show where we sit down with disruptors, innovators, and leaders who are shaping the world in bold and meaningful ways. I am your host, Dr. Keith Haney, and today's episode is one you will definitely want to lean into. Our guest today is an absolute force in the world of brand leadership and business transformation. She is known globally as a Brandologist, someone who fuses art and science to build not only powerful brands, but also powerful lives. With over 3 decades of experience, a 93% success rate, multiple industry awards, and a client roster that includes Fortune 100 companies all the way to visionary startups, she has truly done it all. She is co-founder at a marketing firm in New York City, founded TEDx Sarasota, and is a 3-time international best-selling author. She's featured on ABC TV, Smile Jamaica TV, and countless podcasts. Please join me in welcoming Judy Winslow to the podcast. How you doing today, Judy?
Thanks so much, Keith, for that beautiful intro. That was very kind. Thank you.
No problem. You checks in the mail, so I'm sure that... I'm looking forward to talking with you and having a good conversation. I'm going to ask you my favorite question. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I think the best piece of advice I ever received, actually, it had to hit me over the head more than once. And the first time I heard it, was many lifetimes ago, and it kind of shook me up. So it was that it's time for you to own and take responsibility for your life and your journey. Like, it's all yours all the time. And the first response was like, yay! And then the second response was sort of like, oh, dang. So I sat with that for a while, and then it came up again many years later. And it now is something that I speak to very often with my people as the first place to start. Because we have to own our journey, or we can't, then we're being victimized and martyred, and we're not really owning what's is and to come.
But I like to blame other people for my problems.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. That's kind of, that was the oh dang.
I want to own my mistakes.
That's like, my first was like, oh, you mean it's not my parents' fault? But everything's their fault. What do you mean?
That's right.
Yeah.
Or my best friend, who was my best friend until I blamed him for everything.
But that's another story, isn't it?
That's right.
Yeah.
So you built a reputation as being a brandologist. I love that title. Take us back to how did you discover your gift for merging art and science?
I think it's just an evolutionary thing for me, because I started out wanting to be a hippie. So I'm a failed hippie. I flunked hippie school. And that's its own little story, which began in university. I had this idea that I was going to be a hippie because I wasn't allowed. My parents were very controlling. And so I was going to be a hippie who made pots, and they went out into the universe. And somehow that's how I made money, because money was a big point of arguing and power in my family. It was very traditional. So my mom had to ask my dad for money, which I found humiliating for her. I have no idea how she held it, but I found it humiliating for her. And it didn't work out because I was lousy at ceramics and making pots, and that whole dream just, I would say it crumbled, but it never got built in the first place. So it didn't crumble. But then when I took this design class in college, which was a prerequisite, I got super excited about, oh my God, everything in our world is designed. Like it just had this complete shift of focus and awareness that I could participate in this world that I was rejecting by going off into this hippiedom. And I could actually impact it and influence others through design. And that got me super excited. So that kind of was like inception of my awareness that art could be applied to all the things. And then the science has come as my beliefs, if you will, have been repeatedly backed up by science, although not always in the moment. Like, we didn't know what we now know about quantum field and energetics and the field and just so many things that we just had neural pathways, neuroscience. We didn't have access to any of that. But somehow I had this inner knowing that there was science. I could feel we were living it, but we couldn't really explain it. And now we can. And so because I started out in that area of visuals and graphic design branding, it had me see that we were consciously creating, designing, deciding what the brand, the business would look like. And I realized that really at the heart of it, we do that with everything. We do that with what we decide to wear, what side of the bed you sleep on, all the things that we may not consciously do, but we're still actively participating. And so this whole idea of the art and science, which I came up with many moons ago, which I feel like I need to change because now it's become rather ubiquitous, is something that came to me a really long time ago because it really kind of is this, this. It doesn't collapse. It's a constellation that works around one another. They're in the same orbit, although they're different planets.
I get
Yeah.
that. As a podcaster and content creator, along with my other many roles in life, we always hear that if you want to be good at this particular part, you need to clarify your brand. But it's really kind of hard to. I love what you said. Talk about it's kind of combining a couple of things together. But how do you discover what your unique brand is? I mean, I can think I know what my brand is, but how do I know if I'm just like not sure? Because it's like it's not a you can't just like sit down or ask AI, give me my brand. Uh, you have to kind of discover it. So how do you help people discover what their unique brand is?
I love that. So you and I were talking about this before. So both of us are fans of assessments, which is kind of a super quick way to get to some of this. But I have a number of exercises and processes that I'll take people through that will help us start to get our arms around the language, the values, your personal strengths, how those are infused into your business. So what you just shared about having, yes, you're a podcaster and a content creator, and you have all these other gigs and wear various hats. I would say that you bring the same brand attributes to all of those. How they're expressed and applied show up differently, but at the heart, you're still at the heart of all of that, right? You are the heart of all of that. So what we would look at and what we do look at is what are those attributes that you are infusing into all the things? And one way to quickly navigate and identify some of those are through things like Gallup Strength Finders, VIA character, Marty Seligman's character strengths, which to me are more values than Gallup Strengths, Colby. There's a lot of kind of funky, weird assessments that help you with that. And then I've created some fun, easy ways to also do that for people to identify very quickly what their brand attributes are. And one of them is to ask other people because often we can't see our own fabulosity, right? We don't see it.
That's true. We don't always see ourselves as fabulous, do we?
No, we don't. Very few people do.
Tell me, take me back to maybe one of the proudest moments, or maybe one of you think your greatest achievement in helping someone discover their brand.
Wow, gosh, there's been so many stages to that because when I was doing design, it's very different than the way I work with people now to grow and scale. So it's not that I wasn't helping people before grow and scale, but the emphasis was on their marketing, their structures, the lanes of business that would directly impact their day-to-day sales numbers. What I include now that I didn't then as powerfully and as much as part of the overall strategic planning is the leader's values, beliefs, vision, intentions, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities of the marketplace currently. It's a much more holistic view that when we weave it all together, it allows not only the business to grow, but also the leadership to grow. And one thing that's become extremely obvious to me as I work with companies on the grow is how critical their culture and team building is. So I didn't used to address any of that. So back then, like one of our first wins, and this is a million I was like a child when this happened. Okay, but Elizabeth Taylor was my first celebrity client. And when we helped Elizabeth and her team understand how to launch their perfume and how we could help them, it never occurred to me that like I had something to add to that conversation. So it was very exciting. That was very exciting. It was very exciting to be a part of, to watch it unfold. Now, I think what's most exciting for me is as I work with people, and I often work with people for longer periods of time, I can see this more obviously than if it's a shorter engagement, is to really see them get it and to see it sink into their bones, into their DNA so that they not only are expressing differently, but they're more confident, they're more curious, they're more excited, they're more connected to the work again. Like to me, that just gets me super pumped up. And
I
that
love
gets
that.
reflected in their numbers, which of course is always great.
Of course, right. We were talking about before we came on about different assessments, and I have taken so many assessments, and I keep looking for the one that's gonna tell me something different about myself, but it's basically the same versions of different
Hmm.
assessments. Um, and so I'm never surprised by the results, but I am curious for people who
Yeah.
just really I know people who take assessments and they keep either they don't know how to answer the questions honestly, or they just don't get a clear picture, or they're across so many different places that the assessments aren't really
Hmm.
accurate. Have you run across people who just have a hard time critically answering those assessments because they don't really seem to know who they are? Maybe because they're indecisive about, I like this, but
Yeah.
they ask you something like, "Do you like doing a lot of tasks?" "Oh yeah, I'm very task oriented." "But are you also I'm people oriented too." So it's like you either one or the other. They're kind of like, "Well, I kind of like a little bit of both." And so, have you run across that as you're dealing with somebody with a brand?
Yeah, I mean, I run into it too. I can't remember which assessment. I recently did an assessment, and almost every question, I felt like my answer was, "It depends." And I had to sit with
Right.
it, like, I don't know what possessed them to word it that way, but I kept thinking, "Well, it depends." And then I would answer it because it depended. So I don't know. Normally, what happens is kind of what you're saying, that a lot of it is a reinforcement, like, oh, yeah, I knew that about myself, but I didn't know that about myself. Like, and then not only did I not get it, but the connecting of those dots to how it impacts how your work life is unfolding, how that applies to you as a parent was not necessarily obvious, or how you're imposing your beliefs onto your team or children was not so obvious, like things like that. I find that more often than people not understanding how to answer the question. Although when they oftentimes, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but I know with Colby, for instance, they say that when you're in that space, that oftentimes it indicates that you're in a transition, so that they
Mm.
suggest that you come back in a few months and take it again when you're more solid. Because
Yeah,
we
that
all go
makes
through
sense.
phases where we really don't know.
Right. I
We're
love
being
that.
the goo of the butterfly. We don't have any wings yet.
Right,
So they're like,
exactly.
come back when you get your wings.
So let's talk about your 6M model. I ran across that on your website, and I'm just curious. I love models. I love the things that people do to help people get better at what they do. So describe for us what inspired you to create the 6M model.
Well, after a few, couple minutes, a few years, a couple decades, I started to notice all these patterns. And I feel like they're really, when I started to take my work apart, I was actually at the time building out a year-long program because most of my work is very bespoke. It really depends on the person, where they are, what their goals are. And then that allows me to sort of step in very particularly. But what I wanted to do was build out 52 weeks of content. And I started to break down all of these different elements. And what I found was they all started to fit into these different boxes. And I realized that there was emerging from this a particular model that when we dug into any one of those silos, we could really have some impact. But when we looked at how those wove together, how the tapestry was really being created, and we employed aspects of each of those different elements, that's when we got really powerful. So if somebody has an incorrect mindset, it will greatly impact their marketing, their messaging, right? How they're monetizing. Their model probably will not be unique. They're going to borrow someone else's. So that we weren't able to really break through anything until we were able to take on. I mean, most people who are even in their 10th, 15th year of business are still wrestling with their mindset because oftentimes our mindset reflects who we were, not who we are or even our future self, right? So if we don't acknowledge that, we are sort of destined to repeat the past. So for leadership, it's a very big deal to really be conscious of your mindset, always working on your mindset, curious about your mindset, and looking at how can I be and stand firmly in that space. Like I had a client say to me last week, I know we always talk about this stuff, and we've worked together for a very long time. And he said, and I wanted you to know that I can feel the shift. I can feel that I am some of the challenges that are coming up. And a lot of people are going through quite a few challenges right now. The world is chaotic, to put it mildly. And leadership is not easy. It's not easy to run a business, have all these creatures, also known as teammates, hold the space for, culture and their stuff, and then go home and manage all those personalities and energy. It's not easy. So he said, I just want you to know that I am noticing that I am different. I am more solid. I am more able. I am not as stressed out. My heart rate and blood pressure and all that, like I can feel in my body that I am coming from a different place. And I can hear it in his voice. A lot of my calls are not, I know a lot of people are doing Zoom calls with their clients around the world and country. A lot of my calls are not on Zoom. Kind of 50-50.
Interesting.
Because when I started doing this 1,000 years ago, we didn't have Zoom and it was all on the phone. And when I first got involved in the coaching world and I took a coaching class, it was a global class. This was right around 99, 2000. And I remember getting on a call and half the people on the class had no idea what they were saying. Their Italian accents were so thick or their, Egyptian, I just was like trying to hear every syllable. It was very challenging. But boy, did it teach me a lot. Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
So I love it.
It makes you have to
Yeah,
listen.
it makes me, and it's kind of like, we think it's so hard, but then if you think about your best friend or your mom calling and they say hello and you say, what's the matter? Like, you knew.
Right, you could hear in their
Same thing.
voice.
I can hear when my people are stressed. I can hear when they're not in their body. I can hear when they're freaking out. And I can hear when they get it, when they're solid, and when they've shifted. And it's just nothing makes my heart happier.
Yeah, I do think we lose something in video calls because I think we're distracted by the fact that someone's in front of us, and I think I got used to the idea that Well, the video kind of replaced the in-person thing because calls were different. You're right.
Yeah.
When you're on a phone call with someone, you have to be more intentional in listening. But if you're on a screen like you are all day long, your mind wanders or you open another window. It's so easy to just check out and well, I'll record this later and I'll go back and see if I missed something. So I can see how you it makes a difference if you're not watching someone face to
But it's all
face.
sorts of things. Like, I'm like, "Oh, who's that guy and who's that cute little person in that
Yeah,
picture back there?" Or like, "Oh, is that dirty
right,
laundry I see?" Or, "Oh, their dog just walked
right.
in," or whatever. And yeah, and there's something about having to tune into someone's voice. I also find that for a lot of us, I don't know if you're like this, but I am. When I'm on a call and I get really in it, I start to
Mhm.
pace and I just put my head down and I just tune in. You can't do that on a Zoom call because that's disrespectful.
Yeah,
Mm,
it is.
no. It's just
That's
it's a different it really is a different behavior, and it asks something different of us as a result. Mhm.
interesting. I
It is
never thought of
interesting.
that. See, I learned something new by just talking to you today. So walk us through briefly each of the 6 M's and how are they connected to one another?
Alright, so we just sort of touched on mindset, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so which one would you like to do next?
You pick.
So for me, it's mindset and then mission. I'm just gonna list them out. Then it's your message, right? But then how are you monetizing that? So that's one.
Mm,
And then what is the business model for you to express that? Because doing it the way it's always been done is not necessarily the way to the finish line for your business. And so many of the
right.
businesses now that we're exploring, there is no precedent. We are kind of creating, I call them peanut butter cups. A really awesome coach, her name is Andrea J. Lee, and she used to work, oh God, she's fabulous. But a million years ago, there was this guy named Thomas Leonard, and he's kind of attributed with coining the term coaching. And Andrea used to work with him. I love her. She's amazing. So, what do we not have on here? So she spoke about that. So it's chocolate and peanut butter, and then we make something new. It's a peanut butter cup. So are you able to do that? And then how are you going to market that? And then the last bit that is your magic. So we can talk about all of these items, but when we add in your magic, that's when it really reveals your recipe for success. Because when we're not working with your strengths and your magics and your point of view and the breadcrumbs from your journey, we don't really have the full picture. And a lot of the spice, if you will, is infused through your magic. So that's your magic. So now I'm going to go back to mission. So that's really your why. Like, why are you doing this? So I already shared with you that one of the things that was a big turn on for me is, oh my gosh, this is how I'm going to change the world. This is how I get to lift humanity and make a difference and impact, which was always a big deal for me, was making a difference and having impact. No idea why. It's just like, but now actually with things like astrology and human design and Enneagram stuff, all of those woo-woo things, it actually, I'm wired for that. I'm wired to contribute and make a difference. So I think that's hysterical because I didn't know that. Um, your message. Your message is really important for your brand. Some people will use it as a tagline, but it's more than that. It's more than that message. It's not what's under your tagline. How do you connect your message to your why, to your client, to your model? Like it's job. It's quite heavy lifting. So as we build out your messaging, one of the things I would have people do if they, let's say you had to go to a BNI meeting every week, which by the way, to me are so boring. I do not like them. However, a lot of us are doing that sort of thing, right? We're networking and we're meeting people, and you can't say the same thing to all the people. So I would have people come up with 52 ways to share about their business. And I would share it like this. I used to go skiing a lot. I love skiing. I live in Florida now, so I don't ski too much. But when I would get on the ski lift and inevitably people would say, "Hey, what do you do? Where are you from? What do you do?" Well, I'm going to answer a 10-year-old differently than I am going to answer a guy in their 40s than I am going to answer a grandmother in her 80s. Like, we don't, to just whitewash that everybody's going to be the same all the time in all the situations, that's not fair. So we have to that's part of your creativity. How can you creatively share what you do so that it lands with the listener? Because that's really our job. Our job isn't just to speak, it's to be heard. So how will our messaging do that?
I wonder, as I look at your list of M's here, model, is your model kinda like the skeleton of of what you're doing, what you're trying to monetize? Because that seems like that's the bare bones of what you are. Because it's not your magic and it's not your message, but your model may be the delivery mechanism that you use to get your message out. Am I
Yeah, so in the law business, right, how you interact with an attorney is something we've all come to expect. But my question is, how can we change that? How can we make it more fun, more inviting? There are places where I remember there's a man named Dan Kennedy who was like an OG marketing guy. I call him curmudgeonly. He was kind of like this grumpy old man kind of guy. But he was very well respected in the marketing world. And one of the things, like I remember very clearly him sharing about, he was one of the first to come up with a premium model. So, for instance, there's a pizzeria down the street and they serve pizza. Is it amazing? It's pizza. We actually have an amazing pizza place here, but I don't mean that. He came up with a way, and this is back in the day when pizzas were like $7. They might have even been less. They were not expensive, which is why everybody was always buying pizza. Super affordable way to eat. He came up with a pizza club for this really far out pizzeria in like the outskirts of Syracuse, New York, right? So it wasn't in some metro area. It's like in the burbs, not very well positioned. Anyway, he came up with this premium pizza club. And to join the pizza club was like 50 to 100 to $150 a month for pizza that was like $7. And people were like, that'll never work. You can't do that. Well, they did it. They had this premium offer. And for that, you would get like the pizza of the month, or you would get, I don't even remember. But he came up with these. It was basically a membership before memberships were memberships, and as ubiquitous as they are now. So he created this model using pieces from other industries to create something very powerful in an industry not known for that sort of model. And so that's what we
Mm,
look at is how can we make your model so unique? Because there's so much now where people are doing price comparisons. So it's very important, I believe, to create a space where there is no way to do that. It's apples and horses. There's no
right.
way you can't. So you don't want to be, because if you were just saying it's this or that, now you've become faceless and nameless and not special. And I believe that every business is special. We just have to figure out where is your specialty, and then how do we convert that into a model that serves you and serves the client and serves all your mechanisms so that everyone wins and you're providing a service that no one else is. That's what makes your brand stand out.
As I look at these, there doesn't seem like there's a particular order of the M's. Would you say there's an order that you need to follow to do this, or it just kind of depends on your personality, your brand, your magic?
Yeah, I mean, just like you just said, so we may start with the monetizing or model, the model and monetizing. A lot of times, so I remember working with someone and they had this particular financial goal they wanted to reach. Okay, so how many sales? So most people, they come to me because their sales have gone flat or they've fallen off. They're just messy. And they think they either need a rebrand or there's something not right with their brand. But when I ask them about, okay, well, let's look at how's this stacking up, what do the numbers tell us? They want to focus on the numbers. And the first thing I do is we will assess the numbers, we will look at the numbers, and we will see what the numbers are telling us. But it's not where our focus is. By that, I meant, he said, I think if we got another 12 to 14 sales this year, we would meet our numbers. And I said, really? What's your average sale? And he told me. I said, well, this is a really smart person, by the way, really, really, really smart. I said, have you done that? If we do this times that, it does not equal what you're saying. We would need actually 64 sales, not 12. And he was like, oh, that's the reality. So then we have to look
Right.
at, okay, what are we offering that will start to either increase our average sale, right? We start to look at all these different aspects so that now we know, okay, this is what we really, really need. Am I the person? A lot of times when I work with founders, I work with a lot of founders. So they're the person that came up with this great idea and they started doing the great idea and everything was great until it wasn't. And then they're like, uh-oh, what happened? Like this worked last year. But because everything changes so quickly in today's world, we really have to be quite fast on our feet and flexible, which is why I like small businesses, because they can be. And he realized, wait a minute, I'm not really the person. I have my own sort of ceiling. Like, can I ask for a $5,000 sale? Can I ask for a $10,000 sale? What will happen when I'm in a room and really what they need is a $20K solution? Can I speak that? And the answer was actually no. So his first hire was a salesperson, which changed everything.
Wow, that's smart. As you think about implementing this in an organization, what's the most challenging things organizations face implementing the model?
I think the most challenging oh gosh, they're all challenging. For me, they're actually come a bit out of this in that when I speak about market and marketing, we have our market that is our end user, right? But we also have our market that's our team. And then we have marketing that is to our end user, but then we also have marketing that's to our team. Because if we can't have everyone inside buy into whatever it is we're up to, we've already kind of lost the battle. So there's different ways to play with this. One of the things I love to do, and culture is such a big deal because it's very challenging to build a team. It's very challenging to manage humans. We're not easy creatures. And it's very challenging to do all of that while you're trying to grow your business. So I think empowering our team is such a critical aspect for them to be in touch with what is their mindset, what are their values, what would actually fuel and feed them, because we're now here asking them to feed and fuel you and your vision. Well, what's their vision? So doing some of this deeper work with them is very useful. And keeping that team as a cohesive unit, to me, that's the hardest part of larger entities, is really how are we enrolling and establishing self-leadership within our own teams. Like years ago, I worked for a restaurant, actually. My ex-husband owned a restaurant, but I had never really been a part of it except for like parties and off items that I would assist with. I would work the door or take money or I don't know, whatever. And I worked for a couple restaurants down here, which I had never done. And the restaurant that was the most successful treated everyone inside as an entrepreneur. We all had authority over our tables. If someone complained, we could decide how to rectify that, buying them a drink or a dessert or whatever it was. And I found that the way they empowered their employees really made a difference for the energy, the way that people were welcomed into the restaurant versus other places where I had worked where we had no authority, where we were treated like children, where the expectations were very specific and measured. And it really kept people very stuck and kind of kept their wings clipped and didn't acknowledge them for the power, the influence, and the beauty that they were as first line for the humans to encounter. So there really makes a difference
Yeah,
when you empower your employees. And so we use this to empower them as well and include them. Yeah.
interesting. So I'm going to ask you this question. What's your why? What wakes you up in the morning?
Well, that's what I said earlier, like making a difference. I don't know where I got this, but somehow making a difference to me is like a really big deal. I feel like if everyone on the planet, this is so Pollyanna, so excuse me in advance. I,
Well, you are a recovering
I
hippie, so.
that's true. Peace, love, and rock and roll. But it's true. Like if everyone on the planet really made that their mission, like, okay, I am here to make a difference and lift others, I think the world would be a really different place, and I'm here for it.
There you go.
That's that is
Oh,
my why.
so your dream person to collaborate with would be who? If you had that
I
one
love that
person
you
you want a
asked that.
dream
I
collaboration.
don't know, but I'd really like to find out. Like, I would like to collaborate with everyone. I think collaborations are so fun. I am not that person I'm not competitive. I am not like you. I want everyone to win. I think we should all be happy. I don't think everyone should get a trophy. I am not in agreement with that. But I do think that we should work together to make things better. And like whatever that is, whether are we having a better dinner party? Are we having a better tennis game or I don't want to crush anyone at Monopoly. I don't care. But I would like to collaborate with everyone, and I don't know. I don't know who it would be. It might be someone, honestly, in fashion or the interior design world, because I love beauty, and I love impacting spaces. I just think it's so cool. So if I could come together with all of that, that would just be mondo fun.
I'm okay if people finish second. I really am.
No,
Uh,
but I don't wanna finish second, by the way. Hello. And I wanna win. I just don't wanna compete to get there. I just want it to occur. I don't know.
there you
I don't
go.
know how that works.
So on the show, we have a new thing, a surprise question. Pick a number between 1 and 10 for your
No,
surprise
no.
question.
5.
All right, let's see what you got
Okay,
here.
drum roll.
Would you rather have unlimited sushi for life or unlimited tacos for life?
Oh, that's so hard. I would like both, please. Is the sushi gonna
No,
be fresh every
you have to
day? I have
pick
to pick
one.
one? Can we have sushi tacos?
Yeah, no, you have to
Keith,
pick
this is
one.
the world
You
I live
can't.
in. We are making stuff happen, and it's just going to be how we like it. Sushi tacos. Yes, please. All right. I'm going to say tacos because I make them at home all the time.
Okay, there we go. If you could coach someone who's younger but wants to get into what you're doing, what advice would you have for them?
Mm. So somebody asked me this a couple of years ago. I was at a party and I was talking to a younger person, and she asked me what I did. And then she said, well, how do you do that? Like, how does that even happen? And first of all, it's a surprise. Like, I had no idea I would be doing this in my life. I wanted to be a hippie, remember? um, but it really is evolution. So where I started as a graphic designer and where I am now, where I'm not physically really much designing, I do some of my own graphics, but mostly I'm in the advisory, strategic planning space and creating culture. I would never have imagined I'd be doing this. So my advice is really, do you pay attention to the clues? Because universe is always sending clues. And look at what are and this is part of the process I do with my people. What are the opportunities right now? Opportunities are always coming and going. What are the opportunities right now that will help move you into the direction of your dreams, which, P.S., are usually not static. For most of us, we don't think when we're little and we're 5 and we want to be a fireman that we always want to be a fireman or a doctor. By the time we're 10, now we want to be a vet. right? By the time we're 15, we only want to work with dogs. By the time we're 25, right? So can you see there's an evolution? So part of it is, how are you leaning into your evolution? Like, I am someone who, I follow my heart. I really can't say that any of this was, I wouldn't not say, call it strategic, but planned. What I do is I try to make the most of where I am currently, which is, I think, different from how do you get to do that? Because,
Right. Exactly.
yeah, well, I would love to hear how you would answer that, sir.
Well, for me, I felt I had a calling to do
Yeah.
this, and it wasn't something that I had ever planned to do. So I say listen to your calling. And like you just said, ask people around you, do you see this gift in me or these certain gifts that I possess? And how do I best use those gifts and those abilities to make a difference in the world? So
Yeah. And honestly, that's how.
I don't try to plan out life. Yeah,
Yes,
that doesn't
doesn't
work
work
well.
well. I did not know anything about the word coaching or the world of coaching or consulting or any of this stuff. And many years ago, it was around 98, 99. I was sharing with one of my, at that time, I had like all these different jobs. And one of them was, I was a receptionist. Like, good morning, ABC, how are you? How may I direct your call? And one of my clients used to take me out to lunch, which was very kind. He knew I didn't have a lot of money. And he started sharing with me something very personal, which he had never done before. And I helped him with it. And at the end, he said, you're really good at this. You should do this for a living. And it was interesting because that day I had a list of, here's what I think I should be doing with my life. And I wanted to get his opinion because he was a very successful businessman. And I wanted to get his opinion on which direction he thought I should pursue. And that's what came out at the lunch. And
Wow.
just like the week later, I was telling that to someone, another friend, and she said, you help me all the time. I think you should become a coach. And I said, what's that? And I went online and I found out what it was, and I was enrolled in coaching school the following week. It turned out that a guy that owned one of the largest coaching schools at the time lived in my town. And I reached out and I got to meet him and I just signed up.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Where can people find you and connect with you on social media?
So I am I'm on Facebook at Judy Wins. I am on Insta at JWins CEO Pro. You can always DM me, and I'm on LinkedIn a lot. So I'm also Judy Wins on there. And I'm always available to chat. I love meeting new people, and I invite anyone to reach out.
Well, Judy, thanks so much for sharing your story, your bright, shining light in the world and making a difference. So we encourage people to reach out to Judy and really listen to get some help for her and all that she can provide. It's been an honor having you on Trailblazers and Titans. Your insights into brand leadership, your decades of wisdom, and the heart behind everything you do truly elevate our conversation. For our listeners, if you want to connect with Judy, work with her, or dive deeper into her books, talks, or brand leadership programs, check out the links that'll be in the show notes. If today's episode inspired you, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with someone who's building something meaningful. Until next time, keep blazing trails, keep building boldly, keep stepping into a life that you were meant to lead. Judy, thanks so much.
Thank you for having me, Keith.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Trailblazers and Titans. If you enjoyed our conversation and found value in the insights shared, please subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us reach more listeners and continue bringing you the stories of the world's most inspiring leaders. Don't forget to follow us on social media for updates and exclusive content. Join our community of Trailblazers and Titans, and let's continue to learn, grow, and transform our visions into reality together. Until next time, keep blazing your trail and striving for greatness.